Hello there, thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and boy, today it's R&B legend Ruth Brown. Just such a legend on so many levels. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame, Tony Award winner on Broadway, Grammy winner. I mean, she had so many awards sprinkled throughout her long and illustrious career. Just a wonderful person. And in the 1950s, her biggest years, the venerable record label Atlantic Records was nicknamed the house that Ruth built. She had so many hit records. You know, if Aretha Franklin was the queen of soul, then Ruth Brown was probably the queen of R&B. Because in the 1950s, boy, I'll tell you, she had 19 top 10 R&B hits. That is a monster streak, no doubt about it. So if you want or have a Ruth Brown concert poster, it's best to have one from the 1950s. And I have blogged a couple before. I've done a 54, a 56, and a 57. So here we are with the latest one in 58. And this one's unique because the first thing you notice is that great headline up top. Isn't that cool? After Turkey Hop. Wow. The Friday after Thanksgiving. Just so much fun. That's so cool. You usually don't see too much fun in the venue box. It's just getting across information. Friday, November 28th. And the time is given with an updated sticker there, 9 to 1. Then it says the Coliseum Ballroom in Davenport, Iowa. Opened in 1914, that venue was, and known locally as the Call or the Call Ballroom. Then the prices are given, $1.75 in advance on the left side and $2 at the door on the far right. And in between, it says for reservations, phone Rudolph Quick with his phone number, and the question remains, is the Quick part an action word or just Mr. Quick's last name? So this, as you can tell by the layout, this was definitely a tour blank, and the color portion therefore would stay mostly permanent, and it consists of a beautiful full-length shot of Ruth used on a lot of her late 50s concert posters. Not surprising, it's a perfect photograph. Then you've got Ruth Brown, her name in half script and half block lettering, which looks pretty fun, and in person, and then the Mama Girl, which of course refers to her huge hit Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean, which was #1 R&B for a month back in 1953. It was also her only hit, by the way, to show up on the Billboard magazine's mainstream pop charts before rock and roll, when you had, Johnny Ray and Doris Day and everything. Well, there was Ruth's Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean. And then in the lower left, you do have 3 song titles there. This Little Girl's Gone Rockin'. That was her most recent hit as of this poster. This fall, it was top 10 Rhythm and Blues. And it was actually an add-on to this poster, which I'll explain in a minute. Then further down below, you have new hits. And, the word new is a little bit debatable, not to be nitpicky, but Lucky Lips is the first one given. Well, that's fine. That was a hit early in 57 when the poster was designed, and it was top 10 Rhythm and Blues. So that's a year and a half. And in all fairness, indeed, it was her most recent hit before This Little Girl's Gone Rockin'. But then you've got 5, 10, 15 hours on there, and of course there's no way that's a new hit. That was a hit 6 years ago in 1952, and what a huge hit it was. It was #1 R&B for 2 months. So you got to try to include that on any Ruth Brown concert poster in the 1950s. And then you've got this interesting white box cut in there with Paul Williams' Hucklebuck Orchestra. Well, Paul's name has been on a million R&B vintage concert posters that I've blogged for you, and he's was a jazz and blues saxophonist and bandleader, and his hit The Hucklebuck was #1 for 14 weeks. Wow, back in 1949. And then down in the white margin there, just typical business, direction, Shaw Artists Corp. in New York and Chicago, and the printing company's credit, Murray Poster Printing Company in New York City. So this was a tour blank poster, as I've mentioned, used throughout 1958 and presumably part of 1957. And sticking with 58 though, I've got one to show you from much earlier in this year, way back in February of 1958, as opposed to this November. Wow, look at that difference, right? We go from blue to red. This is still 1958, but check that out, interesting. In fact, there are 3 main differences in the so-called permanent portion. of this tour blank, you've got the color difference of red, and there's no song title under the in-person circle. Okay, and also band leader Paul Williams originally had his photograph in there. Look at that. And they decided to take out Paul's photograph and put in Hucklebuck instead, figuring the star power of the monster hit was more important than his picture, I suppose, or there could have been some other reason. But, no mention on this poster of Hucklebuck. And then up top, you do have the Mambo Club there in Wichita, Kansas. 8 p.m. Let me hold this straight for you. The Mambo Club up there in the venue box. And it does say Saturday night, February 1st in giant letters, and then 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. and direction Ray Overton. So quite the 1958 tour blank, and maybe a little of 57 for Ruth Brown. Boy, the queen of R&B, I'll tell you. And I was lucky enough to see her in New York at the top of the World Trade Center and the windows of the world in the 90s, and she was still killing it and fully entertaining and wonderful. So what a long and great career for Ruth Brown, and this one from her first decade with a really charismatic, fun poster with a great headline, After Turkey Hop. Thanks a lot for dropping by today. Great fun to show you this stuff. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you again for something soon. Okay, bye-bye.